I mean, you thought our mail service was bad? She waited 25 years for this letter, okay? So...
Oh my God, how long have you planned that joke?
The moment I read that sentence, I was like, postal office joke.
And that's improv, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi everybody, welcome to BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. I'm Nikki.
And I'm Kelly.
And this week we have joining us one of our favorite people ever, Tilly.
Yay! Thank you for having me. Yay!
Yeah.
It's so good to have you back.
Yes.
It feels
like,
right.
It feels like it's been so long.
I know.
But also like you never left.
Oh.
Okay, this week we are reading, or we're talking about, we've already read, we're talking about The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell, which is one of my favorite books, probably of all time. Ooh, and Kelly right now is going to read you guys the synopsis, so we're all on the same page.
Soon after her birthday, Libby Jones returns home from work to find the letter she has been waiting for 25 years. She rips it open with one driving thought: I am finally going to know who I am. She learns not only the identity of her birth parents, but also that she is the sole inheritor of their abandoned mansion on the banks of the Thames. Everything in Libby's life is about to change, but what she can't possibly know is that others have been waiting for this day as well, and she is on a collision course to meet them. Dun, dun, dun! I mean, you thought our mail service was bad? She waited 25 years for this letter, okay?
Oh my God, how long have you planned that joke?
The moment I read that sentence, I was like, postal office joke.
And that's improv, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, and let me wait till I finish this. Then
acting.
Oh my God.
Gosh.
Okay, so rolling off of that, let's talk about what we rated this book to get into it. Tilly, why don't you go first?
Yes.
Oh my God, the pressure. Okay, I can do this totally. Okay, so I don't read a lot of thrillers, so I wasn't really sure what to expect going into this, but I knew it was one of Nikki's favorite books, so I was like, okay, well, it can't be terrible because Nikki has good taste. Mm-hmm. So here we are. I was reading the book. I was instantly gripped. I was so excited, and I ended up giving it 4 stars.
Yay! I love that. What about you, Kelly?
So I also gave it a 4 out of 5. I do read thrillers. I haven't read many this year. I feel like this year has been the year of romance for me, which I'm happy about, but I also do miss reading thrillers. So I was happy to get to this one finally. I've had it for like over a year because you told us about this book, and I was like, okay, I've heard about her, but I've never read her books. So reading this, I was really excited. I did find that the first little bit was a little slow paced, and I wasn't sure where it was going because we already knew so many key points to like the past story. But I wasn't annoyed by it. I was just like, where is this going? What am I waiting for? I don't know. So like it wasn't a bad slow build, but it was just different than what I'm used to in a thriller. But I really enjoyed it. And I, like, going in, I knew there was a sequel, which to me is not normal for thrillers. So I was like, what? There's a sequel? What does this mean? So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
I don't think I knew there was a sequel going in.
Yeah, and the sequel just came out in, like, September, I think.
Oh my God,
so it's quite
year?
new.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Have you read it?
No, I'm going to start it tonight.
Oh!
I'm so excited. So obviously, this is the second time I've read this book. I read it in 2020. I love it so much. I am a huge reader of like thrillers, mystery, all that stuff. And while I found that it wasn't like very mysterious, there was something about this book that even though there were so many layers and plot twists, it all felt so reasonable and believable as you were working your way through the novel. Every added layer, it's like, oh, I didn't think about that, because she gives you so much stuff right off the bat that you feel like this is just how it is. Yeah. And it all makes sense and it's all very logical. And then as each layer gets added on, you're like, but that's also really reasonable and logical, but also still super messed up. And like you start to like stack all of these things, and it's kind of like Jenga, and at the end everything kind of just like comes crashing down, and you're like, whoa, what just happened? So yeah, 5 out of 5. I love it. And I love Lisa Jewell, but this is definitely, or I would say, her most unique mystery or like thriller book that she has in terms of the layout of the book and how everything is like given to the reader. So
okay.
I really enjoy it for that too.
Interesting. Yeah, the going back and forth in time I thought was really cool for a thriller because, like, I'm thinking about other things I've read. Like, I haven't finished Gone Girl, but I've seen the movie. But in the book, they go back and forth and in different perspectives as well. But, like, this just felt so different because we already knew that, like, people died in this house and everything, like, you know, like you said at the beginning, there's, like, all this info given to us that's so realistic that it's like, okay, now what's going to happen? You know, like, it was definitely different than other thrillers I've read, but in a really good way. And so I'm very curious to see how she writes in her other books. Like, if this one is a bit more different than the other ones, like you said.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I find the writing itself, she has a very similar voice throughout all of her books. But I think in this book, and I'm hoping that it continues into the next book as well, the way that she like puts things out are like, it's very plain, but also at the same time, at least for me, I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, what's going on, like the whole time. And usually in mystery books I don't really feel like that. I just feel like, oh yeah, of course this is what's happening. And in this book I didn't feel like that. Also, the first time I read it, it really freaked me out. I finished it at like 3:00 in the morning, and I was sitting in my bed and I was like, I can't go to sleep now. What if I die?
Oh my god. I read this before bed almost every time I was reading it, and I'm like, why did I think this was a good idea?
Oh, see, I read it in the morning, and I'm glad. That was smart. Although it wasn't as like twisted as I wanted it to be. Weirdly, I feel like I agree with all that you're both saying about, like, you know, it was really reasonable how it was laid out, how it was plotted, like everything kind of stacked on top of each other, and I really enjoyed like how everything kind of interlocked. But by the end, or like maybe the last quarter of the book, I was like, okay, so we've got everything figured out, everything seems like fine. And then I was kind of disappointed because I was like, why is we've got everything figured out. There should be more consequences. And then of course we've got that like twist at the end, which kind of like changes things. But I almost wanted it to be more messed up. I'm like, okay, so it was just like a cult.
Right.
Whatever. Like, it was just a couple of weird charismatic people who like, you know, told everyone what to do. But I wanted it to be more twisted. I don't know. I don't usually feel that way.
I'm hoping in the second book that it does get more, because we do see a hint when Libby talks to Clemency about her time in the house and her being like, well, Henry pushed Finn in the water. And then we see after Henry goes, right, yeah, Finn pushed me in the water. Maybe I didn't say that it's because I tried to push him in and he overtook me, and then I went into the Thames.
Right.
And then the thing about the cat, like, yeah, the cat died, but it wasn't like really my fault that the cat died. It's because I was trying to make the belladonna the right strength so that the adults would fall asleep. And yeah, the cat lost its tail, but like I just cut it off because it was really shiny. It wasn't like a malicious thing or whatever. There were things like that I'm like, in the next one, I don't know, I'm assuming they're gonna go find Finn in Africa, and
I think it's different narrators too. I was reading the synopsis about it because I was like, what is the next book about? I gotta know. And I think it's different narrators, which I think you're probably right, would make it, we'd see more of the actual truth, whereas like we saw so much of Henry's point of view, which was obviously unreliable because he is a psychopath. And yeah, so that'll probably help, I think. And I think this would be a good reread because so much of it felt so reasonable, but then once you know that everything is kind of like different because it's Henry, and his way of viewing things is not always correct or normal.
Right.
And then maybe going back and rereading it, maybe I would find it to be more twisted.
Yeah, and I don't know, I can't remember exactly the first time I read it, but I feel like I wasn't 100% sure that the man that Libby met in the house was Henry. The first time I read it, I was kind of like, maybe it is Henry, but he says he's Finn, so like why am I going to not believe him right now? Like maybe Finn has stuck around.
Right.
And then I totally forgot about Finn being sick at the end and how he like kind of disappeared, and him going with Lucy to Nice and everything. I was like, oh yeah, that's like a whole other layer. And the like obsession that Henry had with Finn and all of that, I paid a lot more attention to that this time going through, just because I remembered a lot of the other stuff.
Yeah, sorry, I had a thought during all that stuff in the book about like how his obsession grew, and like how we didn't like we saw glimpses of it, but then at the end how we just like how he shared all that information of like, yeah, I got plastic surgery and this, like all these things. Did anyone else get like Goldfinch vibes at any point? And not that there was anything like that in the Goldfinch, but it did make me think of the two boys in that story. I'm gonna forget their names now, but
Boris.
Yes,
Boris.
Just because like they didn't make smart choices together either, and like it was just kind of like a weird relationship. But now that's how I felt like throughout the book with the two boys. But then at the end when the obsession came out, I was like, okay, this is not Goldfinch, because like I can't trust the story that's being told to me.
Right.
So I don't really know what Finn thought about all this, or like if he actually was feeling a connection with him. Like I don't think there was now. It's just like it was very bizarre and sad, honestly. I felt very sad for both of them, even though Henry is a whole other discussion, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because he felt it was love for Finn, or at least that's how he was presenting it for so much of the story. And I was feeling bad for Henry. I was like, oh, he's like this weird, like, awkward child who's like having all these big feelings for the like handsome, strong, you know, like smart guy in the house.
Yeah.
And then when you see how it's not really love, it's like an obsession, like an intense kind of like fixation in his mind of who he thinks Finn is, but it's not actually really about Finn. And then it kind of twisted for me where I was like, I don't actually sympathize with Henry anymore. I actually am scared of Henry. Right?
I thought it was crazy at the end when he's talking about all the plastic surgery and stuff. He's like, I got lip fillers and I dyed my hair and I started working out. So now I'm a lot like bulkier and blah, blah, all this stuff. And he's like, I'm almost Finn, but I'm not quite Finn. And I was like, that is a really messed up sentence. But in the same vein as the Goldfinch, their relationship reminded me a lot of Elio and Oliver in Call Me By Your Name, with this like sick obsession of like this boy like wanting somebody so much, and those feelings like clouding all of your judgment and everything. But yeah, there were, I think, one thing for me for this book, there were moments when the writing really transcended a mystery book, where it really felt like very literary, and the feelings and the points that were coming across, I was like, this is so much more than just I'm feeling like eager to get to the next page. I'm feeling so much more than that. And I think that's why I really liked this.
I agree, and I think that's why I don't always go for mystery novels a lot of the time. Is like, it's like, you know, the $4 airport read that you get to like, you know, have some interesting kind of thoughts about like where's the plot going to go. And I definitely can be in the right mood for that, but not always. And I really also enjoyed the writing in this book. I thought she was really strong with imagery and with like building atmosphere, and even some of the descriptions. Like there was a description that Lucy said about, was it Richard, her like abusive husband?
Yeah, was his name Richard?
Was it Lucy?
Yeah, Lucy.
I'm forgetting their names because I read it a while ago.
I don't remember
did a quick
husband's name.
did a quick
Yeah,
reread.
but that awful
I think
guy.
it was. Yeah, I want to say Richard just because that's like a very jerk
dick.
name.
Yeah.
I think. I've met only bad Richards in my life. Anyway, but she said something about how like he's many things, but as rich as he thinks he should be is not one of them. And I was like, whoa, what a good sentence. And
Yeah.
it really stuck with me. It's like the only annotation I made in my Kobo because I was like, that is a really compelling sentence that gives me everything I need to know about that character in
Yeah.
one sentence. It's amazing.
I felt that the character development was very strong in this book, and I think that's hard to do with several perspectives throughout the book.
Michael. Sorry, it was Michael.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like, I don't remember his name. I just remember
I literally
hating
just
him.
finished it yesterday and I was like, I don't know what his name is.
I'm like, I don't know. But
Sorry, Kelly, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I just thought the character development was so strong in this book, and I really, during those chapters with Lucy and Michael, if that's really your name, I felt so upset and disgusted and scared for Lucy, especially during the more intense scenes. And when she killed him, I was like, oh my God. Like, I was very happy for her. I was terrified for her. Like, so many emotions, and how she was just like, okay, now what? Let's go. You know, like, they won't find me. I felt very like J-Lo in Enough, you know? I was like, yes. I didn't feel like J-Lo, but it reminded me of that movie. I
haven't
freaking
seen
love
that movie, and the connection to me doesn't make any sense. But I
oh
love
my
it.
God, it's so good. It's one of my favorites. If you need like a girl power movie, I recommend it. Like, psycho abusive husband, but she gets her revenge. She trains, she protects herself and her child. It's amazing. Anyways, it's like Not Without My Daughter. It's so good. But anyways, it gave me those vibes. I was just like, you go, Lucy. Like, you did what you had to do. You are so strong. Let's go. You know, you're going to start a new life. I was so scared, though, that Lucy was going to turn out to be psycho. Did anyone else worry about that? Because I'm like, who can I trust?
I wasn't worried about Lucy, but no, I wasn't worried about Lucy, but the one part that like, well, I guess several parts, we're talking about like Henry being a psychopath and stuff. When he's talking about giving his mom all of the like teas and stuff. And I was like, at that point, the first time reading the book, I was like, okay, I can see how, like, what, you're 13. That makes sense. You're like, I'm trying to get a way out for my family, and this psycho's using my mom, and I'm going to try to kill the baby because if there's no baby, he's just going to leave and he's going to go do this to someone else, and then whatever. And I'm like, okay, that makes total sense. Great.
Right, it's not like right, but
No.
you can see how he got
Yeah,
there. Yes.
exactly. Like, you've been locked in this house, you don't have shoes, you don't have clothes, you're all like fucking malnourished. Yeah, cool. I totally see where you're going with this. And then when his sister gets pregnant and David announces it at the dinner table, and he's like, I could see the smile on my sister's face, and I was just like, I don't even remember the words that he said, like, she's like a slut and whatever and all of this stuff, and she's totally in on it, and she loves David and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay, this guy is like fucking nuts. He's nuts. She's like 14.
Yeah.
Obviously, that wasn't like a thing. And then when you find out later that the baby's actually Finn's,
I know.
and when
Twist of
he
the
sees
century.
her and he's like, I don't know how I didn't see it before. It's clearly Finn's baby. Like, what? That's what I mean about all of the like plot twists. I was like, oh, it was David, and then actually it was Finn, and I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much sense, because they're all like, that would be the only girl that he would sleep with in the house. Reasonably. I don't think he'd sleep with his sister, obviously. And like, it's not that kind of book. But then like, I'm like, David, that makes sense. Finn, no, that makes sense. And I was just the whole time like, oh my God, what's next? What is coming next?
It's just so wild to me. Like, I did not see that coming. And when Henry was like, oh, we can just tell the police, like, show them that you're pregnant and we'll get a DNA test and they'll see that David did it. I did not think in any way, shape, or form, like, oh, this is Finn's baby. You know what I mean? Like, I was
no, it didn't even occur to me.
Shooketh, yeah. I just can't believe. And what's even crazier is, like, I feel like we've heard these stories in the news. You know what I mean? Like, people are stuck in a house, you know? Like, this stuff happens, which is so awful. And so, like, Henry doing all these things, it's like, how much of this is just the environment that he was stuck in at such an early age, because he was like 12, 10, 11, 12?
I think 11.
Yeah. So, like, you're still developing, and then you don't have access to food, you don't have any privacy. There's, like, just everything going on, so much abuse, like, oh my God. So it's like, it definitely doesn't make what he does okay, but it is a very interesting study, if you look at it that way, of, like, what, like, nature versus nurture, and what can happen when kids are put in this situation. Like, it is so crazy to me. I wish that we had heard a bit more about Birdie and David before they came to the house, you know? Like, I'm hoping that the second one, that we learn some more about them, because I'm just like, what is this cult? Why did they pick them? Just because they had money, I guess? Like,
well, they weren't together before. Birdie came with Justin to film that music video, and he's like, 9 weeks later, Birdie was still in our house. And then his dad, Henry Sr., has the stroke, and David comes along. And I think David's been kind of doing this to people for years. They talk about how they were kind of mooching off another family, and they found out he stole, so they got kicked out or whatever. And I think that, like, you know, it just takes one person, like, to kind of pick and get under their skin, and he got under Birdie's, and she was already, like, such a horrible fucking person.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just in her own way. And
the way she was described physically was so, like, I don't know, grossed me out.
I know.
Like, gross.
I know. So, I'm not sure. I kind of hope in the next book that one of the perspectives is Finn's from the past.
Because we're missing that, yeah.
Yes.
And he talks about what it was like being in the house with his dad. One scene that really bothered me both times I read it was when David drags Finn down to the dinner table, and Finn's like not gonna eat, and David's like shoving the spoon in his mouth, and then like claps him on the back of the head on the way upstairs. And I was just like, it made me like nauseous. It made me want to throw up, just because I feel like she did such a good job describing it that I could see everything so viscerally and feel what everybody else would be feeling at the table. And it was awful, but like very good writing.
Yeah, it really like kindled the imagination. I feel like even though we have these like questions, it's stuff that we want to know because she just didn't give us like as much information as we needed. But I don't think it's a failing. I think it's just, it's like we want to know more because it was so immersive.
Yeah, like when Libby reads the article and then it goes to the next chapter, I'm like, but what did the article say? You know, I was like, I want to read the article.
Yeah. Same. What was the journalist's name? It was like
Miller
Bo or somebody.
Miller?
Yeah.
I loved him. I was like, I am so glad that I think they ended up together, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I feel like he was described as like Ursine, like this big bear of a man who was like kind of slobby.
Yeah. She doesn't ever describe him as being like attractive, or like nothing descriptive about him makes him seem attractive. And at the end, she's like, oh yeah, and I like found him and we make a really good match, even though he's like kind of soft in the middle and he's always disheveled looking and he has a tattoo, but that's fine, I guess, because it's just a doodle or whatever. Like she kind of goes back on everything that she's like, her list of everything that she's wanted in somebody.
Makes sense too, because she's a different person than she thought she was.
Yeah.
So her identity like arc is so interesting through the novel as well, where she's like starts out thinking she's the daughter of these two socialites who like tragically died in their home, and then by the end she knows that it's like so much different than that, and she has actually a relationship with her mom, and she might even have a relationship with her dad, and her parents are alive, and who does that make her? And it's just a lot of interesting questions there.
And she has 2 siblings,
right?
Maybe she has more siblings, we don't know.
Yeah. I was because it's a thriller, of course I had to question literally everything that happened in the book. I was like, I don't trust anyone.
You're like an investigator. Yeah.
Yes, I'm gonna crack the code, which I never do, but I rarely do. But when Libby was talking about her adoptive mother and just like how hands off she was, that put a lot of questions in my mind. I was like, is she connected? Like, until we knew that Birdie was killed, I was convinced that something like her adoptive mom was connected. Like, I just had no clue. Whoa. But
I did not go there, but
I was like,
that's a good place to go.
Yeah. I was like, who is she and why is she so awful? Like, how did she leave such a terrible home? And then her adoptive mother is terrible and she's nowhere here, and I don't know, but at least she's not part of that whole business because But on a silly note, I need to share, I will put a picture up later, but I need to share.
Oh, yeah.
I showed Nikki because I knew that Nikki had a physical copy. So I was like, I need to know, is this in your book? Because this shook me so hard. I'm reading this book. I'm near the end, okay? And because it's a thriller, right? I'm looking into everything. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I don't trust you, blah, blah, blah. Well, I chose to listen to the audiobook while I read the physical copy, okay? And I get to chapter 43, and there's this huge smudge. What the hell is that, okay? I messaged Nikki, and I was like, is this a clue? Is this in your book? I have never seen a mark this big in a book.
It looks like bacteria.
I know! I was like, what is this amoeba-looking thing? Like, what the fuck is that? Is it a fingerprint? Is it bacteria? What is this? And it's like, the next thing that happened was that my mother fell pregnant, and there's this fucking blotch over the line. I'm like, what is that?
And you're like listening to the audiobook, they're not mentioning it. You can see how this would drive you crazy.
Yes.
You'd be like trying to figure it out.
The audiobook didn't say the year and that it was in Chelsea or whatever, so I started with the audiobook and then I opened the book and I was like, oh, okay, this makes more sense. And I also had to restart the audiobook when I got to chapter 20 because I started at work and I couldn't remember everything because people were talking to me, which is fine, but I was like, I'm busy. Mummy's reading. Okay. So I had to restart, and then I see this disgraceful like, what is that? I've seen like little hairs or whatever, like in the printer, okay, little squiggles. This is a huge blob.
It looks intentional.
Yeah.
It looks creepy. So I'll take a picture and put it up for everyone to see because that really rattled me. And I was reading at night. It was dark. And I was like, what is this?
Yeah, she sent me the picture when I was on tour, and I was like, I don't have my book with me, but I'll let you know, like, days away when I get home.
Oh my gosh, so she wouldn't have the... Yeah. Kelly's meanwhile, like, Googling things, like...
That is so funny. Bad. Yeah, I was like, what the heck is that? But no, I really enjoyed this, but yeah, I was shook it. But I also really like... even though they're creepy, I like cult stories because I always find it fascinating how people's minds can be molded and shaped and just like, how do you go from being this certain type of family to suddenly you're under a regime. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I want to know who is David? What did he believe in? Because he clearly had a lot of power. And charisma can only get you so far, right? But like, yeah.
I know. It's really crazy to think about. And like with Henry Sr. in the house and how he just kind of, with strokes and also with, I think, just David's presence and his, I'm assuming his love for his wife, his total like debilitation throughout the novel in like every way until he's just kind of like a vegetable in the house, just like sitting and listening to everybody and not being able to do anything. And that really like creeped me out too. Just like knowing he's there kind of like seeing everything and not able to stand up for his family. Maybe not willing to stand up for his family because David comes in being like, well, we're going to help everything. And he has no money and he's broke and nobody knows he's broke. So he's like, well, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
It did make me kind of question, though, because I know Henry talked so much about his father, Henry Sr., and about, you know, how he was weak and how he was, like, not intelligent. And that's, you know, why this whole thing happened.
Yeah.
But it made me kind of question because we don't know if Henry's telling the truth about things. And so much of the history of what happened in the house is told through Henry. So I'm like, how much of that is even real? How much of that can we even believe? I don't know. I'm so creeped out.
Yeah.
I know. That's why I'm so excited to read the second one, because I'm like, what if this whole book is like, it's a book in itself, and if we literally didn't get the last like 2 pages of it, it would be a complete standalone. It would have been done. We would have been like, yeah, Henry's a little fucking weird, but like maybe it's fine and he's gonna get help or something. But with those added 2 pages, this book could just be like a really epic prologue to like a main story.
Yeah.
We really have like, I have no idea where the second book is going to go. I really hope there's more information about the house, because that to me was the most compelling part of the book, was reading Henry's perspective in the past in Chelsea. So I don't know. I want more. I want to know. I don't know if I want to get David's perspective, because I feel like it'll be like too much.
Yeah.
No, I don't care how his mind works. He sucks.
But I really want Finn or maybe Clemency, because you don't hear a lot about her in the first
absent.
Yes.
in the first book, and maybe that's because she was always watching. Maybe she really knew, and maybe that's why she had such a hard time recovering after everything happened, after she found her mom, because she knew everything and couldn't talk to anybody about it.
And she was the youngest, so.
Yeah. So I have no idea, but like, I'm getting chills just thinking about it. Like,
It really sucked me in. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed mysteries when I was younger. I read a lot of like Agatha Christie novels, which
Right.
are obviously very different vibe. They're like kind of fun, kind of almost cozy in a way.
yes.
And then between this one and then when we read Mexican Gothic last year, 2 years ago, which I think kind of had similar kind of mystery elements and, you know, like kind of centered on a house, and it was spooky. And I remember being really kind of surprised by how immersed I was in that one. And then this one again, I'm like, maybe I should be reading more mystery novels. But a lot of the time they are stressful, and I sometimes don't want to read stressful things. But I really enjoyed this, and it makes me want to kind of pick up more of Lisa Jewell's work, maybe because I think I just need the right kind of like thriller or mystery. Like I don't like jump scares, but I enjoy a puzzle.
Yeah.
Right.
I enjoy being able like to see how things kind of unfold, and especially when it comes to like historical things that happened in the past, and you know, it has all these ramifications in the present and with identity and all that stuff. So I'm interested in that, and maybe that's what I should look for, more books like that, rather than just, you know, I don't like mysteries, which is what I tend to tell myself.
Right.
Oh, you love mysteries. Yeah. I'm like, I would never think you to be like, I don't like mystery, you know? I think, yeah, you just need to find the right one. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So it taught me that I'm being too exclusive in my reading habits, which is always very good thing to know. I gotta broaden my horizons.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's the fun part, right? Part of the fun. One of my part of my reading experience of this book, like I said earlier, was like doing the audiobook while I read the physical book. And again, I noticed so many differences between the narration and the physical book. And it drove me up the wall. And it's no one's fault, but whoever decided
Might
that
be.
well,
It might be someone's fault.
whoever decided that North Americans can't understand British people, okay? Because some of the things were minor changes of like, you know, sweater was said on the audiobook instead of a jumper, which is written in the book, you know? But the biggest change that I was like, what is happening? At the beginning, I thought maybe it was a mistake in the book and she realized it and she had to backtrack and fix it because of the mystery. Like, I thought it was a clue again, okay? Because in the book, they say the second floor, okay? In the audiobook, they said the first floor. And I was like, what is happening? In the UK, they say the floors differently than how we say them.
Yeah, because the first floor is the ground floor.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I
then the
didn't know
first
that.
floor is the second floor.
I'm shaking my head, listeners.
You thought it was like they're skipping number 13 because it's unlucky kind of thing. You were like,
No, I thought it was like she wrote it down wrong, or like there was a mistake and they fixed it in post, you know? Like, we already published the book. We're going to fix it on the audiobook. Like, never mind, we didn't reveal this clue, you know? I was like, what floor are they on? I was trying to picture this house. And I was like,
so
where
funny.
did it go down, you know? Like,
I think reading this book again and thinking about books that I like, I love books about houses. So much. And I mean, I know books take place in houses. There's like, it's really hard to read a book where they're not in a house at some point. But the house was so integral to everything that was happening.
Yes.
You had the drawing room where the exercise was going on, the attic, the hidden room, all the bedrooms that the kids were locked in. The kitchen was a major part. The garden, the rooftop where like so many things happened. Like the house became its own character. And I really love that in books, especially books like this where it's kind of like creepy and stuff. Because I mean, the house was supposed to be at its height quite opulent and beautiful, and it turns into this decrepit like kind of like horror house, not horror house, a horror house.
horror house.
Horror house.
The
I have to really
rural juror.
enunciate. Scary home.
yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I was always picturing, like, you know, that film effect where, like, the house is coming closer, but you're also going far away from it. And there's, like, dust and, like, leaves kind of skittering around. That's what it felt like every time they kind of mentioned the house.
Yeah.
It was so spooky.
And you know,
I
when you've
know.
encountered places like that, like these big, usually old houses that like you see it and you're like, wow, this is a huge building. It probably was nice at one point, but now it is so creepy and it's just giving off this vibe that shit went down there, you know?
Yeah.
So whoever bought the house at the end of the book, probably they said they sold it overseas for like £7 million.
Africa,
They don't know
where
what they
Finn
just bought.
is. Okay. Africa. Finn is in Africa. I don't know, but like
Sure, there's
I
lots
would
of people
think
in Africa. Sure, yeah.
maybe he bought it.
But
Maybe he
did they
bought
say
it.
South Africa? Is that where Finn is?
I don't know.
Lisa, who bought the house?
But I was just like, that's immediately
even
where my
clock
mind went,
that.
was like, oh,
He's coming back.
I would love for him to come back before they go to Africa, because I really don't want this book to take place in Africa.
Is this going to be like Sex in the City 2, where it's just like a Dubai commercial? Is this going to be like a South
Jesus,
Africa
fuck.
commercial? It's not going to be.
I am Africa. I am the heartbeat of Africa.
It
Yeah, I
won't
don't
be
want
like
that.
But I'm just, yeah. Oh my
But
God,
anyway,
can
I'm
you
really hoping it's
imagine?
Finn.
If he bought it, that would be wild. And why would he buy it?
To burn it down.
Yeah.
Isn't he a safari guide? Like, I don't know how he could get $7 million.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I've never
He was in-
worked on the safari, so I don't know how you
And he was like in Nice before. And I don't know why no one thought to look for him in Africa, because at the beginning of the book, he literally talks about how he wants to go to Africa. And I was like, nobody thought, oh, maybe we should check there.
But I
don't
mean, to
know.
be fair, when I was a kid, I wanted to be Jackie Chan. But like, you know, like I didn't go to like
Fair.
martial arts school and like all
Right.
that
If
stuff.
you disappeared every time I saw an Asian man, I wouldn't be like, Kelly, is that you?
That's true. But I'm just saying,
Fair
things
point.
change.
Yeah, I think my sister wanted to be a mermaid Jedi growing up for a long time.
What a combo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's brilliant.
I guess I just think because Henry was so obsessed with Finn that I feel like he would have taken every avenue to try, or maybe he realized he's not obsessed with having Finn. He's obviously obsessed with being Finn. And not having
like,
Finn there is better because then he can just be Finn on his own. And then he used the freaking Justin's name as an alias for the Airbnb. And I'm like, are they going to find Justin too in the next book and get like Justin's perspective? Because he was such an underrated character in this. Like he was like there, but he wasn't really like buying into anything, but he was like, well, it's free and I get to go sell all these herbs, so I'll just stick around for the party, I guess. You know, whatever. He just
wanted to garden.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact that he was able to leave so easily, you know what I mean? He wasn't sucked in fully where he was like, there's no way out. He was just like, yeah, I feel like leaving, so when I want to leave, I'll just leave. And he just left. Like,
yeah, he just got up early and left. Like,
he went to go pick up milk and never came back. You know what I mean? Like, just left.
Yeah, and you'd think that would have been more of an issue for the adults who were, like, so intent on, like, keeping control.
Right.
It did seem weird to me. I'm like, where'd he go? What's his story?
Maybe we see it was an issue for the adults, but, like, would the adults talk to the kids about that? Because
that's what
they don't want it to seem like a big deal. Maybe they want it to seem like, oh, yes, we told Justin to leave and he left. So the kids wouldn't like question or something.
I don't even know what to think anymore.
Right? Yeah.
When Kelly was talking about Libby's adoptive mom, it was making me remember that when I was reading it, I was really suspicious of Libby's work friend. Was it Deirdre? Or
Dido?
Like
Dido.
Why can I not remember?
Like,
Dido.
Dee.
Names are just not sticking in my brain, which makes no sense. I'm so good at names when I meet real people. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Dido. I was really suspicious of Dido. Wait, am I not?
I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I don't know. Are you? No.
She was she was weird. Like,
because she was rich, but she lived on this like kind of small cottage on the edge of her parents' estate, and like someone else managed the estate, and I had all these questions. It was like, what? She also comes from wealth and like has a big estate, like maybe she's connected to this whole thing, and I didn't trust her, but then it turned out to be fine.
Yeah, she was fine in the end. Maybe she's not fine in the next book, but at least
I was like, Libby's telling her too much about this stuff. She shouldn't be so involved.
Right?
Yeah.
Libby is very quick to trust. Like, I even had my doubts about Miller because I'm like,
oh yeah,
we don't know him. I
And
thought
he's a
maybe
journalist,
he was Henry or
so-
something. Yeah.
Like, okay, we haven't even talked about the fact that Henry locks them in his room, in the bedroom, and steals their phones and just...
He's like, I sleepwalk. That's why I locked you in. Oops. Like, what?
Right? I'd be like, okay, fucking crazy pants. Like, no.
That was so scary, that moment of them like realizing, and then it seemed to kind of resolve and they were like, oh, okay, just a silly misunderstanding, but I was still creeped out.
Yeah, and I feel like that would be really hard to reconcile, like as a real person. I've met somebody finally who's connected to my past, a past I know nothing about, and I'd like to get everything I can from this relationship. And so I'm willing to overlook all of these things that are like super huge red flags because I want to dig deeper into like who I am. Maybe this is my only opportunity to ever know what led my family to the point of me being in this creepy ass baby bed in this like dilapidated empty house
with a
for the police to
foot.
find.
Yeah.
With a
What
rabbit
was
foot.
the rabbit foot all about?
Just
It
for
was
good
Justin's.
luck. Yeah.
Yeah, just for good luck.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked kinda for her. She managed. She's okay. She's now rich.
I also forgot after reading it the first time that the reason she was left there is because Lucy took Finn to get help
Right.
at the doctor. I was like, this whole time reading, I was just thinking, why is she by herself? And like, what, like, who was taking care of her? Because they made it a point to say like a few times while talking about the detective's reports that she had like a fresh diaper on and she was really healthy and well taken care of, and everybody else was like dead and emaciated and whatever, all of that stuff. And so, yeah, I was just like, what happened to her? And then hearing Lucy be like, when I came back, the police were there and it was too late and I couldn't go in. And I was like, you could have gone in, probably.
Yeah.
But I guess when you're like 14 and you've lived most of your like kind of like lucid life under a crazy man cult leader, maybe you don't think, maybe right now is a good time for me to go tell the police everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
The
then
trust
after
in
a while,
adults is shattered.
yeah, and then after a while it's too late. Like they're saying, we had no way to prove that we were ourselves. We had no identification or anything. I guess short of digging up their parents' bodies, that's probably what they would have had to do to prove, to get DNA. So that's crazy.
Oh, God. I can't believe that. Well, like, I can believe, but the part where Henry was like, I took care of you. Like, while they left, they just left you and I took care of you and I did all this stuff and blah, blah. Like, part of me is like, I mean, I don't trust Henry one little bit. He freaks me out. The whole locking them in. Yeah, that was so creepy to me. But he, like, takes care of this baby while everyone goes. And I'm like, what was your plan? You know, like, did he do it because it was Finn's baby? Does he actually feel some kind of, like, connection, or does he care for the baby who's Libby? Like, I don't know. But that kind of...
Did he know it was Finn's baby then?
Yes.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just kind of, like, creeps me out thinking about him there alone with the baby and, like, watching and everything. Like, while I'm in the middle of, like, hiding the body of Birdie, I'm going to, like, clean you, change your diaper, make sure you're fed, you know, like, all these just kind of, like, creeped me out a bit. But, like, you know, at least she survived. But, yeah, that... I don't know. There were so many moments in this book where I was like, I am so creeped out, but I love this.
I know.
It was so... And just, like... I'm going to lose my thought. Yeah, I lost my thought. You can cut that part out. But...
No, I know what you mean about him taking care of the baby, though, because I was like, why is he doing this? Because we saw earlier, he doesn't care about babies. He also, he like, basically poisoned his mom so that she would lose the child when he thought she was pregnant with, well, she was pregnant with David's child. And he thought it was, okay, I'm getting confused a bit here, but he thought baby Libby was David's child up until the point
So
that Finn was locked to the radiator, like that whole showdown.
So when he killed the parents and David, he was like, we can prove that that's his baby, that he, like, raped you,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, we can't because it's Finn's baby.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe that is why he kind of like flips the script on how he feels about babies, but it all feels very surreal.
Yeah, I think it's definitely for his own good. And I think really he was really willing to just let Finn die on that radiator so that he wouldn't cause them problems in their escape. And I wonder if he wanted to keep Libby so he could keep Finn.
Oh.
Like, if I have Finn's baby, I can be Finn and be this baby's dad or whatever. Like, I can have a piece of Finn in his daughter or whatever the case may be. Disgusting.
God. I also thought the part at the end, like, when he... reading the part about him and Phineas... Or, why did I say Phineas? Finn. That's his name, not right? Phineas?
Phineas?
That's his name, though, right? Phineas?
It is, you're right.
Okay.
You're right.
Reading the part where he went to Finn at the end and, like, took him off of the radiator. Reading it the first time where it was, like, kind of, you know, mulled over, or not mulled over, like, he just kind of, like, glossed over it quickly. And then when he went back and, like, detailed that, like, he kissed him and all this stuff, was so sad for me. And, like, again, I don't trust Henry's perspective. So I'm like, was it just kissing? I don't know. Because he also was young. But it's just, like, so icky. And poor Finn is just, like, a shell of a person, like, just wanting to die. Thank God Lucy was there to get him help. Like, There's just so many levels of atrocity in this house and in this story.
When he says, I was giving Finn stuff to make him sick and sucking the life force out of him, I was like, I didn't remember that part either.
I didn't
and
that. I thought Finn was just malnourished.
Same.
Well, that's what the doctor said. The doctor was like, he was suffering from malnourishment. And then Henry says something about, I was
potion.
like, yeah, I made it as a love potion from Justin's books, his like Wicca books. And he was like, then I realized it was making him sick, but I didn't want to stop because I was like getting his life force. I think he says something kind of along those lines, like taking from him was making me stronger and like making me feel more powerful in the house or something along those lines.
Yeah, he says he was taking like his shine from him, like he was able to shine brighter because his light was being dimmed because he felt like, you know, Finn is so much better than I am. I want to be him. I want whatever, all this stuff.
Yeah, and all the adults were liking Henry more because he was fucking with everybody. He was cooking a lot and he was doing nice things for them, seemingly. Like, he really took care of his mother during her pregnancy. I thought it was also really funny that when he's explaining what happened with that, he says something like along the lines of, as I've gotten older, I've seen also that it's incredibly hard to kill a fetus with parsley. So the chances of that pregnancy being viable were like really small anyways. And I was like, great way to justify the actions. Cool.
We know you
love that
giving
for you.
Parsley. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like parsley and other things. But apparently parsley was like thought not to be good for pregnant women. But he was probably giving her like rue and stuff like that. Rue is toxic to a fetus.
Ugh.
But
just so much of the way Henry ended up talking, it's like he hated David, but he became David.
Yeah.
Like the way he thought about people was like so skewed from the get-go.
Yeah.
And then kind of he was so convinced that he was doing things like differently, or that he was so much more intelligent than everyone else, and he was, you know, he had all the good ideas to like save them, but really it's like he wasn't so different from David in the end. And the delusion of thinking that you are like, it's so messed up.
Yeah, because like at one point in the book, Henry Sr. is like, oh, your mom likes David, he's very charismatic, whatever. And then later near the end of the book, when like after Henry Jr. locks Libby and Miller in their rooms and everything, and he's like, oh, sorry about that, blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure Libby mentioned something about, like, he's so charismatic, or maybe Lucy mentioned something about that. But, like, even Lucy was scared of Henry. Like, when they come face to face, she was like, oh, God, I don't know what to do here. You know, like, who am I going to get? Which is...
Yeah, and, like, he had changed his appearance so much, she wasn't even sure if it was Henry.
Yeah.
She's like, I thought it was Finn for a second, but then I noticed like the dainty wrists and stuff, like all of these like feminine kind of like attributes, I guess, of Henry. Although I thought that was kind of funny because Henry describes Finn as being like femininely handsome. Like he's beautiful in like kind of a feminine way, but he's still like a handsome boy. So when she was describing all of that, I was like, interesting, is that not a trait of Finn as well? But I guess not, because obviously it's Henry. But I was just like, oh, interesting.
There was a lot going on there with like gender presentation and like, you know, like homosexual love, and like I don't know, I felt uncomfortable a few times where I was like, does he have to be gay and also a psychopath? Like, what is the connection here? Are we, like, is the author trying to say that, like, because he's gay, he's pervert? I don't know. I was, like, I had some uncomfortable moments near the beginning, and then when I got to the end I was like, oh no, he just happens to be both gay and a psychopath.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay with me, I guess, but it's nice to see like gay folks having like different representation, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I just felt it needed to be said because I was uncomfortable about it, and then at the end, I was
wasn't.
like, okay, I understand.
I felt like she did a really good job writing Henry. Like, I didn't feel like, oh, this person doesn't like know anything about it, or like I didn't feel like there was like stereotypes, but I also wasn't thinking about like, is she offending gay people by making this gay person a psychopath? And we don't even know if he's really gay or if he just was obsessed with Finn. I think that was another thing that was like, I don't even think he really knew if he was really gay or just obsessed with Finn. Although he does make that weird joke about the cat where he's like, the cat's name is Dick. It's the only way I can get any. And I was like, that's really fucking weird. But okay, man, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know his story. I only know what he tells us, which is not reliable. But I did think at the beginning when they were younger, like I didn't know at first if it was a crush in terms of like, I am attracted to you and want to be with you, or if it was just kind of like, I admire you as a person and want to emulate you as like a role model kind of thing. Like, I don't know, right? Like two young boys, like older brother, younger brother kind of vibe. I didn't know.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, okay, interesting, you know? But I don't know. Because, yeah, we don't know. I don't know. Yeah. Maybe Henry's bi. I don't know. Finn could be bi or Finn could be straight. I have no idea. But, like, yeah, there was a lot in this book. And it was a short book. It was not very long.
Yeah.
So
No, it was shorter than I was expecting. I was reading through and I was like, oh, there's only so many pages left.
Yeah.
Seriously. I need to know what happens in the next one because, like, that ending, I was like, oh my God, do you have room for one more? No, I don't have room for one more.
Right?
Trip.
I'm just like worried that they're gonna go and he's gonna kill Finn. Or worse.
I don't even know. I don't even know what to think.
He can't. Or if he does, he can't die at the beginning because then there won't be a book. Or will there? I mean, I guess you could. I don't know. We'll just have to read it.
Right.
We'll have to find out.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna start it like right when we're done this.
Oh my God. Okay, well, don't tell me anything because I won't get there for a bit.
I will not.
Well, we haven't talked a lot about Lucy kind of like living like unhoused for a long time and like being kind of like a street fiddler, and like all of that was really hard to read about, I felt. You know, especially coming from like a really kind of opulent childhood, and then you know, the years of being like under this kind of cult, and then the years of living on the street, and then the years of living with Michael, who was awful. Like, Lucy really had it rough.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was really surprising to me. I don't think that they were in Nice. I think they were in like Bordeaux or something. Her and Finn left together, and they were together for like 2 years, and then she just woke up and he was like, oh, I'm going to Nice. And then she saved money to follow him. And when she gets there, she like looks for him for like months, I think, never sees him, and then finds Michael and marries him, and he's a fucking crazy asshole. I was so happy when he died, but that scene before where she's like talking about the glass pressing into her back as he's like trying to like kiss her and stuff, and I was like, okay. I just wanted to throw up.
Yeah. Well, and also after she leaves Michael, like when she gets divorced from him, she meets this other guy who she says she falls in love with, and he's amazing, and they have Marco together, and he just ups and leaves, never comes back, you know?
So, Stella.
Yeah, and what's going on there? Like, what? The love of her life.
Marco is Michael's son, and Stella is Ahmed's daughter.
Oh, shoot. Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then she still has like a kind of relationship with Stella's grandmother.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's like not nice.
Only wants to take care of Stella and will not accept Marco and Lucy. So that was like, not great.
Yeah.
I think she does sometimes, but she was like, I have people here. I can only take Stella. which is like, I mean, we don't know this lady's situation,
Yeah, it's
but like, yeah, that would be really shitty to be like, okay, I'm just gonna leave my daughter here with you, even though your crazy son fucked off and left our family.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go sleep with my son under a bridge like a troll now.
And how could you say that in front of the boy, too? Like, I'm not going to take you, but I will take your sister for the night. And then, like, she'll be
even just
fed.
taking the 2 kids and leaving her and the dog to find something would have been better.
Yeah.
Because, like, can't Marco and Stella just share a room? He's, like, 9.
Yeah.
They can sleep in the same bed. Like,
Yeah. Like, hello. Ugh. But yeah, no.
I know.
It's like she only wanted to take care of the one that she shared blood with. It was a little icky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just the desperation that Lucy felt, but like, I'll keep it all together. Like, I'll make it work for my kids.
Yeah.
And the pride too, because she had an apartment, and I think that older man who lived there was like going to try and pay for the apartment.
Yeah,
and she couldn't.
Giuseppe.
And yeah, and she was like, I can't accept that. And then she left to find her own way. And I thought, oh God, the pride.
Yeah.
I know. It kind of made me sad that she didn't send him money at the end. When she sent him that like text or whatever, and she was like, I've found a very good life. Thank you for everything. Goodbye. And I was like, you're not going to send the guy some money? Because he lives in that shithole too.
Yeah.
You know? Like, pay him back a little bit from all your money that you got from this big ass house. Not even like
Yeah, that was
$1,000.
weird.
Like,
Maybe she can, like, mail him some cash or something, like, from an unmarked envelope, because I know she is also worried about, like, getting in trouble for murdering her ex-husband.
fair.
Oh,
But
right, of course.
whatever.
But she was using a fake name.
Yeah,
So hopefully it's
whatever.
She covered her tracks really well, I feel.
Yeah.
But just that desperation of her narrative, like so much of was really fueling me to keep going. I was like, what's she gonna do? Like, how is she gonna make it work? And I thought she was a really compelling character, even before I knew kind of like exactly how she was connected to the house and everything. I thought, oh my God, like, it's not a perspective you see a lot, like a mom who's like living on the street with her kids and like trying to make it work. And I don't know, I was
Yeah.
really invested in her story.
Yeah.
I know. It was really sad to me after she has Serenity or Libby to hear like, oh yeah, she just got locked back up in her room, and every afternoon she was brought down to like pump on this like really old machine, and then she was put back up in her room again, and David and Birdie just carried that baby around like it came out of Birdie herself
Oh,
and
my
all
God.
that stuff.
When Birdie was like, my baby, give me my baby, I almost screamed. I wanted to be like, fuck you. You did not push this
Right?
baby out, bitch, okay?
Right?
My God, you pump your boobs. No, you're not, you know? I was so angered. I don't have any kids, people, but I was angered. How dare you, you know?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The toxic shit out of her mouth.
I know.
I was like, how
Yeah.
dare you come in my baby?
Right?
And the fact that they were hoarding all these things in their house, in their room, after like enforcing this, we must give everything to charity, like it's not good to be, capitalist, blah, blah, blah. And then they meanwhile have like stacks upon stacks of just stuff
Yeah.
that they've been keeping.
Yeah,
It's
their
so
shoes.
messed up.
He talks about
Their
like there
shoes.
being a Mars bar wrapper on the ground beside their bed. Yeah, all the alcohol, the like jewelry
Hoarders.
that his
They're
mom
hoarders.
used to have. I'm just like, I mean, I know that's a really common thing in like cults in real life, that you have the leader doing things obviously that they tell their followers not to do. But I really wasn't seeing it going that way. And then when he goes in the room, I was shocked with Henry about everything that he was seeing.
Well, and the fact that it wasn't really that hidden, you know what I mean? It was just like in
Yeah.
their room. If you open the door, you'll see it all right there. It's just that no
Yeah.
one had access. So that one time he gets to peek behind the curtain, everything is right there. And that's why Finn was like,
Yeah.
his secret stash, which he thinks no one knows about, but I know where he keeps it, like, oh my God. I will say, because I just couldn't trust anybody, I was really worried that when Lucy came back with Henry because they had that, they were all waiting for her 25th birthday, right? I was like, what is going to go down? Shit is about to go down. Like, they're going to try to kill her. I don't know. Like, I did not know because I was, you know, preparing myself for something crazy to go down. So I'm very glad that that wasn't the case, that she now has this lovely, like, Lorelai Gilmore almost kind of relationship with her mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, I couldn't trust anyone. I was so scared the whole time of like, oh no, they're going to go meet her and they want the house. They want something. They want something's hidden in the walls. I don't know, you know, like, yeah. So I'm glad that at least that positive came out of it. We will see what happens with Henry because that's not going to be good. But I can't wait.
Definitely not. Thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Bring Your Own Book podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us, you can follow us on Instagram at BYO Book Podcast or follow us on TikTok at Bring Your Own Book Podcast. Join us again next week while we discuss The Stolen Heir by Holly Black. Thanks again for listening, and we will see you next time. Cheers!
Next time on BYOB, the Bring Your Own Book podcast. A passerby discovered a toddler sitting on the chilly concrete of an alley, playing with the wrapper of a cat food container.